Hello, audience. My name is Carlos Garcia, and I'm the host of the show, Grim Secrets. Welcome once again to another episode. So, get yourself a coffee, put on your headphones, and enjoy this tale. Ready? Have you ever stumbled upon a secret so dark that it changes your perception of reality? Picture this: a decrepit church, lost to time, standing abandoned at the edge of a forgotten village. What if I told you that within its rotting walls, a sinister truth waits to be uncovered, one that might defy all reason and sanity? I'm Artemio Salazar, an intrepid reporter always on the hunt for stories that challenge the boundaries of belief. When I was given the chance to investigate an ancient, restricted church rumored to be the epicenter of unspeakable horrors, I didn't hesitate. Local legends spoke of a cursed priest, a monstrous offspring, and grotesque rituals. This was the kind of story that could define my career if I survived to tell it. Join me as I delve into the shadowy corridors of this forsaken place, where every creak of the floorboards and flicker of the candlelight leads to a chilling discovery. What I uncovered was far more than I could have ever anticipated. As you read on, prepare yourself to be drawn into a tale of malevolence and madness, where the boundaries between reality and nightmare blur into one horrifying truth. Are you ready to face what lies within the darkness? I was told that the church had been abandoned for over 100 years after a series of strange and violent events that terrified the local inhabitants. It was said that the place was cursed, having been the site of satanic rituals, human sacrifices, and demonic possessions. No one dared to go near it, let alone enter the old building. I saw this story as a unique opportunity to create a shocking report that could reveal the truth behind the legends and rumors. Besides, the idea of exploring a restricted area full of history and mystery was fascinating to me. So, I prepared my equipment, my camera, and my notebook, and set out on the journey. After several hours of driving, I arrived at the site. The village was small and quiet, but there was a noticeable tension in the air. The locals looked at me with curiosity and suspicion, as if they knew what I had come for. I tried to be friendly and cordial, but I didn't get much information. Most refused to talk about the church or quickly changed the subject. Only one of them, an old man named Don Pedro, dared to say something about it. "You shouldn't go there, young man," he told me with a trembling voice. "That place is dangerous. There are things better left alone." "What things?" I asked, intrigued. "Things that are not of this world," he replied with a look of terror. "What happened there? Why was it abandoned?" "I don't know for sure," he admitted. "I only know what my grandparents told me. They say that a long time ago, the priest in charge of the church was a very bad man who did horrible things with the women of the village and had a child with one of them, a child who was not normal but an abomination." "An abomination? What do you mean?" I asked, trying to understand. "A monster," he said, lowering his voice. "A monster that fed on the dead." I was stunned. I didn't know whether to believe him, but I felt a chill run down my spine. And what happened to that child and the priest? "I don't know," he repeated. "All I know is that one day the village rose up against the priest and lynched him. They hanged him from a tree in front of the church and set him on fire. It was a horrible scene. They say the priest screamed like a madman and cursed the entire village. They also say the child escaped from his confinement and disappeared into the jungle. Nobody followed him," he added. "No one dared to follow him, let alone enter the church after that. They left it as it was, with everything inside, and no one ever heard from the child again." I was left thinking about that story. I wasn't sure if it was true, but it seemed incredible that no one had investigated further. What had really happened in that church? What had become of the priest's child? I decided to find out for myself. I thanked Don Pedro for his information and asked him how to get to the church. He gave me directions, but warned me not to go alone and to carry a cross and pray a lot. I told him not to worry and assured him that I knew how to take care of myself. I said goodbye and headed to my car. I drove along a dirt path that led into the jungle. The scenery was beautiful, but also unsettling. There were no signs of human life, only trees, plants, and animals. The silence was almost absolute, broken only by the sound of my engine and the birds. After half an hour of driving, I arrived at my destination. There it was, the church, just as I had been told. It was a stone building with a tower and a dome, covered in vegetation and looking very deteriorated, as mentioned before. It had a dark and sinister appearance. I parked the car near the entrance and got out. I grabbed my equipment and approached the door, which was locked with a padlock and a chain. I looked for something to break them and found a large rock. I lifted it and threw it against the padlock with all my strength. There was a metallic noise and the padlock broke. I removed the chain and opened the door. A musty, rotten smell filled the air. The inside of the church was dark and dusty, with pews, statues, paintings, and other religious objects scattered on the floor or piled in corners. Everything was covered in cobwebs and mold. I turned on my flashlight and entered cautiously. I explored the place with curiosity, looking for anything that caught my attention. It didn't take long to find it. On one of the side walls, there was a small door leading to stairs that descended into the basement. The door was locked with a bolt and had a sign that said "No entry." This piqued my interest. What could be behind that door? What were they trying to keep me from seeing? I decided to find out. I unlocked the bolt and opened the door. I carefully descended the stairs, lighting the way with my flashlight. The basement was a large, damp space with several rooms and corridors. There were boxes, furniture, books, and other old, dirty objects. I began to sift through them, hoping to find something interesting, and I did. In one of the rooms, there was a table with a chair and a lamp. On the table was a small book in good condition. I took it and opened it. It was a diary written by Father Israel. My eyes lit up when I held such a document. I had no doubt that this could be the investigation that would catapult me to fame and the prestige I had always dreamed of. Without further delay, I began to read it. Dear diary, you, more than anyone, know about my life. Since I arrived in this wretched village, I have written down every significant act of my daily life, from revenge killings to the corruption of altar boys, as well as thefts from the tides. I must admit that I feel no remorse for any of the above, but there is something special that gnaws at me inside, and it seems that our Lord punishes me every time I do it. Today I have sinned again. I have seen Isabella again, the woman who has bewitched me with her charms. I know it's wrong, a grave sin, but I can't resist her kisses, her caresses, her body. She says she loves me, that I am the only man in her life, but I know she lies. I know she sleeps with other men for money. I know she is a witch who practices black magic, and perhaps worst of all, she is a servant of Satan. But I can't leave her. I can't forget her. I can't live without her. What will I do? How will I escape this curse? How will I save my soul? That chilling paragraph left me speechless. I couldn't believe what I was holding. It was the diary of Father Israel, a priest who was sinful and corrupt. It was irrefutable proof of what had happened in this church. I felt a mix of excitement and horror. Excitement for having found such valuable material for my report, and horror for what that material implied about the history of this church. I decided to continue reading the diary, hoping to find more details about Father Israel's crimes and secrets. Dear diary, today more than ever, I am speaking to you in desperation. I am very scared. I am inside the church with my rosary in hand, praying every known prayer. I ask God for my soul because I don't know what will become of me. Outside, the village is being battered by a powerful storm, but the most terrifying thing is that even with this intense rain, someone is knocking on the door. I can clearly hear, despite the commotion outside, a creature crying, a small newborn baby crying outside, and something or someone keeps knocking on the door. I have thought a lot about this, and I have no choice but to go see who it is. I hope this isn't the last time I can confide in you. At that moment, I could feel a bit of the fear that Father Israel must have experienced. I quickly turned the page to read what happened next. Dear Diary, just as I imagined, on the day of the storm, I went out to see who was knocking on the door with desperation. But to my surprise, there was no one there except for a newborn baby lying on the ground with the rain hitting its face and the mud covering its tiny body. I picked it up to shelter it inside the church, and once it felt the comforting warmth of God's house, it calmed down and stopped crying. However, I remained perplexed and couldn't stop thinking that same eyes as his deceased mother. But how could this be? Isabella hadn't been able to give birth before her death. I was completely at a loss, struggling to make sense of how this child came into the world. The only explanation that came to mind was that the child was a curse, spawned from a demonic pact. I knew. I had to get rid of him, but it wasn't going to be easy. The child continued to cry, and the rain outside grew heavier. I watched helplessly as the storm intensified, the wind howling like the anguished souls of the damned. I was on the verge of taking drastic measures when suddenly the baby stopped crying. It was as though he had sensed the impending danger or understood my desperate thoughts. But the horror did not end there. As I prepared to leave the church, a terrible realization dawned upon me. The thunderstorm outside was a mere backdrop to the real storm brewing inside. The diary had revealed more than just the priest's sins. It had unraveled a web of evil that extended beyond death. Suddenly, the ground beneath me shook, and a deep, guttural growl echoed through the church. I knew then that something was watching me, waiting for the right moment to strike. The air was thick with malevolence, and I could feel it closing in on me. Without looking back, I fled the church, my heart pounding with terror. I reached my car and drove away from that forsaken place as quickly as I could. The storm raged on, but my fear was not just for the elements, it was for the dark forces that seemed to have been awakened by my intrusion. Safely back in town, I took the diary with me, not wanting to part with it even though I was desperate to escape the nightmare I had unwittingly become a part of. The diary, now wet and damaged from the storm, was my only link to the terrifying truth of the ruined church and its cursed priest. As I sat in the park, trying to calm my racing thoughts, I couldn't shake the feeling that the true horror was far from over. The townsfolk were unaware of the true danger that lurked beyond their quaint village. My story, my encounter with the macabre, was only the beginning. I knew I had to share what I had uncovered, but I also knew that the shadows of the church and the secrets within would haunt me for the rest of my days. The diary was a chilling testament to the evil that had been unleashed, and the terror I felt was only a glimpse of the darkness that lay in wait. And so, as the storm clouds parted and the rain finally ceased, I made a vow to expose the truth of the cursed priest and the horrors that had been unearthed, even if it meant confronting the demons that now seemed to follow me. For some secrets are better left buried, but once unearthed, they have a way of haunting those who dare to uncover them. Thank you so much for joining me on this spine-chilling journey into the depths of horror. If you enjoyed this unsettling tale and want to hear more, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that will keep you up at night. Share this video with friends who have a taste for the macabre, and let's spread the thrill of the unknown together. And remember, the world is full of dark secrets waiting to be uncovered, so stay curious, stay brave, and stay tuned for our next eerie adventure. Until then, keep your lights on and your mind open. This is Carlos Garcia, Signing off from Grim Secrets. Stay haunted, and I'll see you in the next video.